Have you experienced the awesome power of the Panasonic Real 3DO system? Obviously.
Presenting 3DO, the most advanced home gaming system in the universe. It's time to put away your toys.
3DO from Panasonic, Gold Star, and Creative Labs. A new low price and free games.
Mind-blowing graphics of Panasonic Real 3DO.
3DO.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 3DO Experience, the 3DO Retrospective Podcast, where we talk about all things 3DO, the 3DO Company, and everything in between. I am Bill, and this is Thrak. How you doing, Thrak?
Oh, I'm doing all right. How are you doing, Bill?
I'm doing okay. It's only Tuesday, and it already feels like it's been like an entire week.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. Plus, I got I'm going to Retro World, the convention nearby, the retro gaming convention I go to every year nearby, and the anticipation for that's like, God damn it! I just want it to be Friday already.
Fair enough. Yeah. Work has been very slow, to the point where it's like I'm like banging my head against the wall because it's like I feel like I need to be doing something, but I don't know. Hopefully that'll change as time goes on, or maybe hopefully there'll be other things they give me to do, because like just give me more, please. There's only so little I can do before I just get bored out of my skull. But before we get into the topic, I know last week we were talking about the Dreamcast and talking about Sega. Our audio listeners probably can't see it, but our videos can see I bought a Dreamcast because I couldn't find the one I had forever ago. I looked and looked. And so I went to a retro store. It was like $130 for it. So I was like, sure, why not? And then I got a decent stack of games from them. And I've just been playing those. And I did order some other stuff off eBay. I'm just treating this as like a little birthday thing for me. Because this weekend it was my birthday on Saturday.
Nice. Turning
30. Ugh. Yeah. But I view this as a gift for myself. So I've been playing. If this doesn't make me a Sega guy, nothing will. I'm playing Echo the Dolphin, Defender of the Future on the Dreamcast. And I don't mind it. It's not a terrible game at all. I'd always heard. I mean, I feel like the Echo series is kind of polarizing anyways, and I can understand why. But I enjoy the vibe of all of these games. It's just like I enjoy chilling, like the idea of being a dolphin, just kind of swimming around and occasionally beating the shit out of sharks is kind of cool.
Echo Tides of Time, I think is legitimately a really good game.
That's probably the best one.
Echo 1 is very dated, and I still think Echo 1 is one of the most tonally confused games I think I've ever played.
Yeah. But I think the idea was it was meant to kind of throw you off.
True, because like spoiler warning for anyone who hasn't played it, but like the fucking aliens, like at the end of the game, like what the fuck?
I mean, they're just xenomorphs.
You get to the final boss.
They all are now, yeah.
You get to the final boss, it's like holy fuck, nightmare fuel. What kid was playing this back in the day?
I'm told this guy, the Dreamcast one, it goes some interesting places later on because there's like 4 main areas that you go in, and I'm near the end of the first one, but there's some more stuff that happens, and I'm told it kind of gets off the rails. And there's some like bits about like humans and dolphins forming an alliance to fight off aliens. It's a whole strange thing, but I'm enjoying this one. It's the game does a better job at telling you what to do and like where to go. Yeah. So you have a much better sense of direction. It being in 3D, I think makes a lot of sense. Some people aren't a fan of the controls, which I could see, but I honestly don't have an issue with them. Because like you don't have to tap the A button to swim. You can just tap it like twice and then hold it, and then he'll just swim, kind of thing. And yeah, it has some slightly frustrating bits, like when you're going through some very narrow tunnels and the barnacles will hit you, and trying to sneak past the octopus early on by having that one dolphin distract him, and you're trying to go around them. But it's like I didn't pick the right side, so it wasn't working. So I went around the other side and it worked, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Like it got decent reviews on the Dreamcast. The PS2 version didn't. But
A lot of Dreamcast ports did not they didn't get as great reviews on their porting.
Yeah,
I noticed.
because
Like,
I think Dreamcast games are just kind of overall harder to port.
the Dreamcast had a very specific CPU. Like, apparently it was like one of the most sophisticated of the era, but it was also like really particular at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are some decent Dreamcast ports like Sonic Adventure 2. Trying to think.
I think
Crazy Taxi is not too bad.
Yeah. I think the reason why a lot of those games are the way they are is because the Dreamcast hardware is basically the Sega's Naomi board at the time.
Yep.
And I think like the GameCube was very comparable in a lot of ways. That's why a lot of GameCube ports, I think, were handled better.
Yeah, yeah, because the GameCube is running off, what was it, the IBM Gecko? It sounds right in my head.
Not IBM, I think ATI.
ATI, yeah. I think you're right, ATI, but I think it was called the Gecko processor. And funnily enough, the GameCube's code name was Dolphin.
Yeah.
So
honestly, I think the PS2 was the only console that had issues with Dreamcast stuff because
Xbox, I mean, the version of Shenmue 2 on Xbox, I would argue is better than the Dreamcast version.
Well, it's finished. They added the dub. They basically fleshed it out.
True.
And the Xbox was just a more powerful system in general.
Yeah, yeah. And it was much easier to develop and port games to it because it was essentially a PC.
The PS2 was the most underpowered of that generation, not counting the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast is its own thing. The PS2 out of the big three was the most underpowered, and the Emotion Engine was kind of it was your typical Ken Kutaragi. This thing is only we know how to use it properly.
Yeah, because you see those tech demos and they're like fantastic, and then you look at like Smuggler's Run and it's like, are you sure about this, man?
Did you notice how Sony's first party games always seem to look better?
Yeah, interesting.
Or developers that had very close ties, like I don't know, Kojima or just something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's just funny how stuff like that goes on. That's also why like porting PS2 games to anything else is a pain because the Emotion Engine is a pain. It's kind of like the Cell processor. It was godly powerful, but fucking pain in the ass to work with.
Yeah, it's like I think that's why the PS2 and even the Xbox versions of MVC2 are pretty rough. Because if I remember correctly, the Dreamcast version of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was kind of a remake of that game, specifically for the Dreamcast.
Yes.
Because it was running on arcade hardware, but they had to retool it. And then the port to PS2 and Xbox was from the Dreamcast version, and that's where the issues arise from that.
I think the Dreamcast. I love how we're talking Dreamcast again, but that's fine.
It's a great console.
It is. It really is. But I believe the Dreamcast versions of like almost all of those fighters at the time were the definitive versions for like the longest time up until like the Xbox Live and PSN like Arcade Perfect ports like years later.
Yeah, even then I think the XBLA version of MVC2 does have some weird issues with it, but I think it's closer to the arcade version than the Dreamcast version, but yeah, like say like the versions of Street Fighter on there, Capcom versus SNK, Soul Calibur, like fighting games did really well in the Dream. Even Project Justice, like there's, fighting games did really well in Dreamcast, and it makes sense. It's arcade hardware, but and somehow they made 4 face buttons work.
There is a 6-button like third-party controller I've seen.
There's arcade sticks as well. There's the famous green one.
I've been meaning to
you can shove a VMU into it,
yes,
which is awesome. When I was like Dreamcast shopping, I did see a couple of them in person, but I'm not paying $230 for that thing.
Yeah. My favorite part about everyone's first reaction to turning on a Dreamcast is
beep.
Well, there's that, and they're always like, it's loud as fuck. I think it's dying. I'm like, no, that's just how that's always how it's been.
Yeah, it's notoriously loud, but it runs just fine. Like mine is perfect, and it's the one you can play bootleg games on, but I don't have a CD drive. At least I don't have an external one. So, I mean, I could go out of my way to do that if I really wanted to play Cannon Spike on this thing, because I'm not paying the Cannon Spike price. I'm not doing it.
I think
But
the biggest reason to own that particular model is they're the ones that our Bleamcast works on.
yeah, it has the one with the circle around it. It was manufactured in February of 2000.
Yep.
So yeah, but we'll see. I prefer hunting down the official games. I find it more interesting. You know, it's crazy, but it makes so much sense. The same people who made this game, well, apparently they were doing a sequel, but this got shit canned because of the Dreamcast. But the same people who did this made this.
Yep. Appaloosa.
Yes. So for audio listeners, the same people who made Echo Defender of the Future on Dreamcast made Jaws Unleashed for the PS2 and Xbox. It makes so much goddamn sense. I never put it together in my head. Though I think Jaws Unleashed is much worse than this.
Yeah.
What I've played of them, because it's weird. It's quite a few years later. You think they would have maybe figured it out better or fine-tuned it, you know?
Appaloosa was one of those companies that I swear to God, like everything they did just kind of came out mediocre.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the Echo game's kind of mediocre, but I don't think it's a god-awful game.
Well, you also got to remember too, they made the two PlayStation Contra games.
Oh yeah, Legacy of War
And C, the Contra Adventure.
What a
name.
What a great game. What a great title.
They did co-develop Tiny Tank though, so I give them that.
They're not a terrible company. They're just a weird one.
Fun fact about Appaloosa, they're actually the successor to Novotrade, the original developer of Echo.
Oh yeah, because their Wikipedia credits them for all the games.
I don't think Ed Annunziata was involved with the Dreamcast one though.
No, he was not. I think he was involved with the Genesis ones. Yeah.
So he had left to form the studio and Now Productions. They only made 2 games. They made Tiny Tank and Mort the Chicken. Yay.
Great stuff, man.
Yeah.
And then he's tried to get, I think he tried to kickstart a Echo, like a new Echo game called The Big Blue, which didn't. But to be fair, he asked for a lot of money and he got a decent amount, but not that much. But then he, I guess, got into like a weird class action suit with Sega over the rights to Echo. And then that got settled. I don't know what any of that means. Is it like, was he just trying to get the Echo name so he could take, his game, I think it's called The Big Blue, and just make it an Echo game? I honestly don't know. All this happened like 5 years ago, and we haven't heard a thing. So I wouldn't expect a thing.
No. I think the problem is like Echo is such a cult classic Dreamcast game that like not a lot of people are asking for it right now.
No. Like Sega, I have a feeling they're starting to dip their toes back into their legacy franchises, which is something they should have been doing more of. Because I think it was last year or something, they had that big thing of, we're bringing back Jet Set, Crazy Taxi, Shinobi, all that stuff, which is awesome. And they said they're doing more. Who knows what that means? I mean, could a new Echo game be in the works? Maybe. We don't know.
I think what's happening with Sega right now is they're like the healthiest of a company they've been since they went third party at this point. Like Yakuza and Atlas basically carries them at this point.
I mean, Sonic still does well.
Sonic does well, but they don't have to rely on Sonic anymore. And Sonic's not 100% a laughing stock anymore. So.
No, but they know that Sonic is a consistent seller. He's like Kirby. He'll always sell a couple million no matter what he does.
They're also really lucky that Yakuza and like Atlas's stuff is at its like absolute peak of mainstream right now.
And don't forget their very strong PC division, because you have the Total War series still doing their thing. Apparently, I heard Creative Assembly might be doing an Alien Isolation 2. That might be in the works. And also they own 2 Point.
Yep.
Who've been doing 2 Point Hospital and everything. And those games have been very successful.
They also apparently own the Angry Birds studio, which I just found out recently.
Yeah. They bought them not that long ago. Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know if that'll ever work out for them. It might. Who knows? But sure. Why not? I mean, hey, if we get another, to be fair, we should get another Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. We need another one of those. We could have Angry Birds in there now.
They could actually put the Yakuza guys in there.
They could put the Yakuza guys. They could put Persona characters in there. They could have a Xenomorph in there. They could have like 2 Point representation. Like they have a lot they could pull from, you know.
Yeah, better than
I-
Danica Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they really missed out not having Vector Man in a car. Like, come on, man, bring back Vector Man, god damn it.
There apparently was a Vector Man like reimagining at one point, but it got
there
shit-canned.
was a Vector Man planned for the 32X, then the Dreamcast, then the PS2, and they all got canceled for different reasons.
Yeah.
And apparently somebody found like a release schedule from Sega that said a Vector Man 3 for like the Genesis in like 98, but we don't know anything about that.
Yeah, big the studio that made those Big Sky, they kind of or not
Blue Sky.
Blue Sky. Big Sky made Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. Blue Sky kind of got fucked by Titus because they got bought by Titus, and then they apparently made the better Superman 64 for PlayStation that got canceled.
Yeah, I heard about that. So
yeah.
Is what it is. But yeah, hopefully Sega keeps this. Hopefully this re-release or this like reviving old IP initiative works out for them, and they're like good games, so we can get more from them. That would be great.
I'm happy to see.
Sega. Oh, we did see. What was it that we saw? Didn't they make a trailer recently for Crazy Taxi or something?
I think so. I'd have to relook into that. It's been a while.
Yeah, I remember it was something, and it looked really good. Because I heard that it was like Crazy Taxi is going to be like an open world, like online type thing, which some people kind of groaned at. But in my head, I'm thinking that could work.
If any game could do that, Crazy Taxi is like the one, like open world taxi simulator.
Well, because that's like, yeah, you go into like a lobby and then you have a bunch of people and you're fighting for fares kind of thing. Where it's like, see how long, like whoever gets to this much fare, first or whatever. It's like that as a multiplayer game, like a competitive multiplayer game could work, but I think it also needs like a arcade single player offline mode similar to the originals, similar to this guy. I had to get Crazy Taxi. I could not get it.
The thing with Crazy Taxi 2 is like the timing might work. If there is a new Crazy Taxi coming out, the timing might be perfect because there is also a new Offspring album coming out. It's not going to be as good as the classics, but hey, the timing is kind of interesting.
And I imagine if they wanted to license their new music, it wouldn't be that expensive.
I don't even know. They sold their rights a lot recently, so who knows?
Yeah. Well, like imagine Sega being like, "Hey, we want to use like the new Offspring album." Right, I'm sure that they'd just be like,
the only one they've released in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd be like, fine. But if they're just like, hey, we want to use that song, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but you know the one. We all know the one. I imagine.
Oh, are you talking like you're gonna go far, kid?
The one that starts the Yaz.
Oh, you mean the classic song? All
I want. Like that's the Crazy Taxi song, as far as I know. Like if Sega wanted to use that, which honestly I think they should, it would probably cost them a little bit more because there's that history and people know that history.
True. I mean, I was always on
the weird
side.
But they would be smart. They would be smart to throw that in there. They would.
True. I was always on the weird side that I preferred the Bad Religion songs personally, like Them and Us in 2010.
I mean, the soundtrack is solid. Like it's a lot of music and bands that I don't go out of my way to listen to, but when I'm playing a game like Crazy Taxi, perfect fit. So I don't complain.
During that period when Crazy Taxi came out, I was big into pop punk and like hardcore, so that was like the perfect soundtrack for me. It's kind of like why I like the Tony Hawk games so much.
Yeah, like those games, all that era, like just that music works for it. I'm
actually thinking about they got the licensing for the Tony Hawk remake. They could honestly probably do it for Crazy Taxi.
I don't see why not. But yeah, more Sega talk. I think Will said we should when we finish this, we should do Sega stuff.
Honestly. But
I mean, I'm down. I'm always down to talk Sega. You know that.
I'm always down just to talk like gaming in general. I still kind of like the idea of talking about a obscure console just because no one does, but Sega stuff is fun too.
Oh yeah. Sega kind of fills that weird niche of being slightly obscure but also mainstream, it somehow fits
Well,
both, I think.
it's interesting because there's more gamers now, I think, post like 2000 that don't even remember Sega made consoles.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I grew up with the Genesis, and when I grew up with it, it was in the dying days of the Dreamcast. And I didn't know the Dreamcast was a thing until a couple years later. Because I remember when I asked my parents for like a new Sega console, it was after the Dreamcast was discontinued. So
And they had
I,
to let you down easily.
yeah. I'd have to find out exactly when I asked, because it could have been a time where you probably still could have found one, but but it's like when I started going to the rental stores, they didn't have that stuff there. So it was all GameCube, PS2, and Xbox at that point.
Oh
so.
yeah. There's a lot of gamers that don't remember the time before Microsoft was in gaming.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, I don't remember that time either, but because I was still really young, and I wasn't like up to date with all the current stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
It's weird. I have vivid memories of like the PS1 and 64 era, like before PS2, but
okay. Yeah,
it-
I don't have any of that.
I think it's just because I was surrounded by it at the time. Because I the neighborhood we lived in, me and Alex, was like super like everyone had N64s. Like we were like the lone PlayStation family at the
Yeah.
time. So I think I was just surrounded by it because I always had like massive N64 envy at the time.
Yeah, because when I was growing up, I had the NES and and the Genesis. I didn't have a Super Nintendo. And then I remember I got a Game Boy, and then a friend of mine, she had a Game Boy Advance, which I eventually got the SP later on down the road. And then I asked for the Game Gear. I was very Nintendo centric, probably because I was a younger kid and it was easier to give me that, right? But when I would go to school, more people I knew had PS2s.
Well, I mean, everybody had a PS2. It seemed
Yeah.
like.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Most people didn't use it to play games. But
I knew a handful of people who had Xboxes, like original Xbox. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was a couple of them. And I knew some people who had GameCubes. There was a guy who used to like live down the road from me, and I would go over to his house and we'd play Melee. And that's kind of where I learned about how people take Melee really seriously.
I think I read a thing like once where like if you had a GameCube back in the day and you didn't have Melee, then you probably didn't have a GameCube.
I mean, that was Screw Attack, wasn't it? But if
I feel like that was probably a Stutter and Craig quote.
Because I think it was Handsome Tom.
It's so funny because I barely remember Handsome Tom on the show.
Oh, I remember Handsome Tom.
I remember Nervous Nick more.
I remember when Handsome Tom had his, what was it, Game Heroes?
Yeah, after they
do his own Screw Attack, and
after they left on bad terms, and I guess they're still on bad terms supposedly, but
yeah, well, Tom probably just does. Who the fuck knows what he does now?
I don't think he does anything anymore. And then Craig went nutso on YouTube.
Yeah,
so.
We've talked about that before, but yeah, Tom. Last thing I heard from Tom is that I think he was managing a restaurant.
Yeah, good for him.
With his wife or something. That's the last thing I heard. Who knows? But yeah, like I think it was what Melee sold, like 7-8 million, maybe.
It basically sold the GameCube.
Well, the GameCube sold a lot more than that, but
it did. But like for the most part, like the majority of
it was the game.
It was like the golden eye of like the GameCube. Like it was just that game that everybody had.
Yeah. It's the best-selling title on the GameCube at almost 7.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just not bad at all. So, but it's just But yeah, like I grew up with the GameCube. That's what I had. A lot of people I knew had PS2s, and always the common complaint I heard with the GameCube was it didn't have Grand Theft Auto. That's always what I heard.
See, I was one of those kids that wasn't allowed to play Grand Theft Auto. So
yeah, well, you had True Crime.
I wasn't allowed to play games, period.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to play M-rated games till I was like 13 or 14. Because at that point, my parents didn't care.
See, my parents were so strict on the rating system, I wasn't allowed to play The Sims until I was 13. They were that strict about it.
That's funny.
It's funny though. Like, I think I was kind of desensitized to Grand Theft Auto because by the time I did get to play it, I didn't really see what the hype was, and I was kind of like, it's a game.
When I eventually got to it, it was cool to mess around in it, but I got bored with it because I guess every time I'd seen somebody play it, it was they were, just messing around. I didn't know there was actually like a mission. There was like story for a
Yeah,
while.
it's
And then
it was
then I eventually figured that out and then started doing the story mission. I was like, "Oh, okay. I can get
there's a
behind
game
this."
here.
Yeah, there's something here. Yeah.
It was kind of like the original Skyrim, where like I swear to God, everyone like runs away from the story and just fucks off the entire game.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't start to keep track of video game stuff probably until I got my 360. Because then I think is when I was starting to get older enough to like actually keep track of what was going on. Because the GameCube era, I didn't really think about it that much, I guess, because I was still like really young and I was just playing games, man. Like I would get Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, and I would play that for a year, and that was my game. So by the time I got to the 360, that's when you could keep track of the stuff online as well. Like I didn't have video game magazines or anything, so that's when I was able to actually keep track of new releases and learning about games and all that stuff. So now we're here.
Yep.
Chronically online brain rot.
Yeah, I mean, I try to spend the least amount of time online as I can, but it's kind of hard these days because you got to keep up with everything.
Yeah, and it would be different if, say, like I was busy at work and I didn't have to, and I could just put it to the side and not worry about it. But I just kind of get drawn into it now.
Yeah,
so I'm just trying to keep myself occupied.
Then, like almost all my friends are on like Discord now. So
yeah, and like the people and my who I work with, they're all like really nice, but they're not people I can do this with.
No,
they're really not. So, is what it is. So, anyways, we're here to talk about the 3DO, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay,
and,
yeah.
I'm excited because it's actually we get to talk about a game this time.
We finally found a game that wasn't shit.
Yeah. So we're talking about Escape from Monster Manor.
What a weird cover.
I fucking love this cover. It's so 90s.
It looks like a 90s horror paperback. You know what I mean? Or like say, I don't know if Goosebumps ever did this, but like say if you bought like a kid's horror book and then they had like pictures in the middle of it, like color pictures, like this would be there. Like Escape from Monster Manor. That's just the title of like some 90s kiddie horror. Like Are You Afraid of the Dark?
I fucking loved Are You Afraid of the Dark? That was such wacky shit.
And then if you look on the inside, I think that's the dev team.
I think so too, and I love how they all have descriptions.
Yeah, they all kind of they dressed up for the Ed Wood movie that they're gonna be in.
Yeah. So the 3DO company is such a weird company, but the one thing I will always give them credit for, like we saw the same stuff in like the Zadnost manual, but like they clearly had fun making this shit.
Oh yeah, well, I feel like the 90s was a time where game devs overall were having a good time because it was all very kind of ragtag. And it felt like they were kind of in on something before everybody else was. So I feel like making games now, it's probably still fun, but I feel like it's a lot more corporate and you're dealing with a lot more bureaucratic bullshit now because you have a lot of publicly traded companies and all this other stuff, right? Whereas back then, these people were just making these games kind of weirdly like underground. You know what I mean? It was almost like punk music.
Yeah.
Like it was being made in this like weird underground way. And I think most people didn't understand it, but it was very successful. So there was a market for it, and this is, and really it was, I think about the turn of the millennium when we hit, say, the PS2 era, where I think that's when gaming went mainstream, like genuinely went mainstream with the PS2, I think.
Yeah.
But before that, it was still kind of, like ragtag. But what's funny is, in mine, I don't know if you have this, it gives me this little thing.
Oh yeah, I have that too.
The 10 great reasons why you need another 3DO game, and John Madden's just staring right into your soul. It's like I'm sleeping. And the games that they advertise. You ready, folks? John Madden Football, we've covered.
Yeah.
Super Wing Commander, we didn't cover yet. Theme Park, we've covered. The Lost Files of Sherlock Holmes, we've not covered, but that looks like it could be a good game. Escape from Monster Manor, which we will cover. Sesame Street Numbers, which I will make you cover. Twisted, we covered. The 3D Atlas,
I'm sure we'll cover it. at some
Well,
point.
let's cover it right now. 3D Atlas looks like a weird 90s interactive Atlas program that you would put on your PC back then as a way to be like, oh, look how cool this is, but it's probably vastly outdated now because it was made in like 1995.
If I find a copy of it at some point, we'll cover it. But that's like a big
if you want my opinion, stay away. Road Rash, we've covered, and then Shockwave, which we've covered.
They're all EA published games as well.
Oh yeah, EA was cooking on here. They were cooking.
This game is very similar to Twisted, where it is actually created by the 3DO company's own internal studio 3DO. But I'm assuming because this one came out in 93, so it was very early in the 3DO's life. Trip Hawkins was still associated with EA at the time. He probably was like, hey, can you do the publishing on a few games, please?
Probably, yeah.
Because I noticed that the cover art style is very similar to Twisted, only it's green instead of purple.
I mean, if you looked through that 10 Great Reasons booklet, you notice they all have a similar like background style, but they're just using colors that relate to the game. And then they just decide to use like whatever cover they have for the game, you know. I find it funny in the manual. This is their design of a 3DO controller.
Ooh, yeah, they were a little off. I'm assuming it's because it's an early game they didn't know yet.
Maybe it looks like, for the audio listeners, it looks like a NES Dogbone controller.
Yeah,
I mean, even has the same where the buttons are going up, but like away from your thumb. Which, like, why did they think that was a good idea?
Nintendo. I don't know.
Or anybody, for that matter.
It was still the early days where they were just trying shit.
Yeah, controllers weren't standardized yet.
It's also one of the high quality 3DO cases with like the old school DVD like flip latch thing.
Yeah, I mean this seems to be like an EA thing.
EA,
all the EA games, I think we have this kind of guy in there.
The early ones, anyways. I think the later ones, yeah, because PGA had that weird like box that just opened.
Oh yeah, that was a bit later. I think Wing Commander 3 had the same. Like the flap. Yeah. These are nice. These surprisingly hold up a lot better than the other long boxes.
There was a couple non-3DO games that used those, because then Universal used that weird like slide open pop-up case that's like
the clamshell.
Really, yeah, and then most of them use those really cheap cardboard. But
yeah, when really they all of them should just use the fucking jewel case.
I know, but 3DO had to be different.
I've heard the long box was to prevent theft.
I've heard that too. I think it's also like that there was that mentality of like Americans just like big things for whatever reason.
True. But the thing about the 90s was the era of big baggy pants, so you could easily sneak one of these guys in those.
Yeah.
And with all those the 93 zippers and all that. You could easily fit this guy in there. If you were trying that hard enough to steal a video game in 1985.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody has.
Stealing a 3DO game, you've really sunk at that point.
Well, they just spent like $700 on the console, man. They can't afford anything else.
Yeah, I know. I know, right?
Poor bastards. Yeah, I'm just glad they didn't get in the Neo Geo.
Yeah, I know. You weren't smuggling those cartridges out. Like two of them and your pants are falling down.
Jesus Christ. It's just arcade boards with plastic shells on them.
Basically, yeah. Still a great system, but holy fuck.
Oh, yeah. Don't look at the prices of it now.
Yeah, and then the alternative was the CD model with the disk drive that had one speed.
Slow.
Yeah. Good times. So...
Were they really?
I mean, Neo Geo games are great.
True. I mean, I love Neo Turf Masters as much as anybody else, but...
So, Escape from Monster Manor is... So it's another first-person shooter on the console. And dare I say it is the best one we've played so far?
I would say it's probably the best original FPS on the console.
Yeah. The whole time I was playing it, I was comparing it to BioFury a lot. Just because BioFury, I think, is like the pinnacle of making a solid concept, even if it wasn't fully realized.
Yeah.
This game, on the other hand, is older than, say, a PO'd or like Killing Time, which we haven't covered yet, or the Doom port. enough said.
Yeah.
But
Or even Wolfenstein 3D, I think.
Wolfenstein 3D it was later. That one's an exception because that's a really good port.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking of that, because I'm like, you got Wolfenstein 3D on here, so it like this doesn't clear that.
True. I will say the first thing with this though was the fact that it played very well and like didn't. Hi, Mr. Motorcycle.
That was me. Sorry, they tend to hover around here quite a bit.
It's all right. On Geek Addicts, it's like a recurring joke. So, but yeah. So the first thing I noticed when playing this one is that it controls very well for a Doom style FPS.
What I like about this game is how simple it is. It's so basic. Like I guess there's a plot, but like who the fuck cares, right?
I love the guy doing the voiceover the whole time.
He's having a great time with it, and I'm having a great time listening to him. And it basically it's like the whole thing, the whole setup of it feels like a haunted house. Like when I was playing the game, I'm like, this is like an interactive like haunted house ride, you know, because it has all the stereotypes of like, ooh, you're in this spooky house, you have to recover these pieces to escape, and there's terrifying things around every corner, and it's alive, ooh, you know, like it's very generic kind of horror. It's the kind of horror that like it was probably scary at a long time ago, but now we find it kind of charming, you know. It's kind of cute.
It's a very like this would have been a perfect game for Halloween. I'm not gonna lie.
We
saved it.
When I was playing it, I was thinking that I'm like, this would have worked really.
I might actually stream this for Halloween this year, just for fun.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
But I did notice like right away, like the sprites, they're kind of creepy, but at the same time, like in that charming, like cheesy kind of way, like the first enemy you see
like
in the game,
the ghost, which is just like a dude with a blanket over him.
Oh,
and then he's holding like a fake scythe.
Yeah, there's that guy. There's also the trollish ghosts that like don't actually do anything, but they just pop up in your face every now and then. You're like,
oh yeah, and every time they fucked me up.
Because you like instinctively want to shoot them, but they don't actually do anything. They're just there to troll you. Basically.
Yeah, they don't hurt. Yeah, they don't hurt you at all. It's just every time that happens, I'm like, God damn it.
There was a lot of cases in this game where like you get like spooked by something and like shoot it, thinking it was an enemy and it wasn't. Like occasionally you'll open like a door and there'll be a hanging man and you'll think it's an enemy, but no, it's just a guy hanging himself. And you're
the game has all of that like spooky Halloween like charm. Like if you ever have gone through say like a haunted house around Halloween, or like there's a guy a couple doors down from me that like he'll like outfit his garage to be like kind of like a spooky little maze thing, and I've gone through it and it's fun, you know. And this game feels like that as well because you don't have a gun or gun.
You get a ray blaster.
You literally get like a ray gun that just shoots out like it's almost like a taser, and you just like shoot electrical like bolts out of it, and that's it. There's no other guns. It's just that, and then you fill up the ammo for it. And yeah, it's like it's incredibly simple. And yeah, graphically, it is like silly with like the ghosts and then like the weird heads that shapeshift and then the spiders and all that. But I was amazed at how clean everything was.
Oh yeah, the sprites are great.
Yeah, especially your character's like hand and gun. Like it is smooth. Like those pixels are smooth.
That's
like,
actually
and they're pretty detailed as well.
Speaking of the hand and gun though, this is actually one of my favorite aspects of this game. The HUD is very simple.
It's Dead Space. It's Dead Space levels of HUD.
And I appreciate it because they have everything you need, but it's so subtle how they do it. Your ammo, there's a meter on the gun, and like you just have to pay attention to that. And your health, just watch the hand. The more damage the hand is, the more damage your health is.
Yeah, and it's brilliant. It's very easy level design because then they can like just focus on the game world as well. And I was surprised at how like detailed the maps were as well. I mean, I think the levels can be a bit mazy and kind of like you have to kind of roam around to kind of figure it out. But that seemed to be an issue with, say, Wolfenstein and Doom at the same
this
time.
game is very Wolfenstein. Like it's just
yeah.
it's very flat. There's no like it's not Doom level where there's multiple or even PO'd where you have like multiple layers. It's one flat level, but that's perfectly fine for what this game's trying to do.
Yeah, it's very mazy, and all really you have to do is find a piece of the talisman and then leave, and that's basically it.
My one of my favorite moments in the first level was, so it took me a little bit to realize how you were supposed to get more ammo, because I didn't realize those little electric ball things were the ammo pickups. So I ended up blowing all my ammo because I kept shooting the ghosts and everything. And I was like, fuck, where do I get more ammo? So I'm like looking through rooms, and I opened the door that had like 1,000 of the scythe guys just coming at me. And I was like, fuck. And I was like running. And they're all chasing you throughout the thing. I eventually found some more electric like the ammo stuff. And I just fucking annihilated all of them.
Yeah.
It was very tense for a few minutes there. I was like, oh shit.
It occasionally gets tense. Yeah, there was a moment, I think it was in the third level, where it's like the fourth level, or the first red level, where you find where the talisman is, and then there's a bunch of those like weird transforming heads that burp like death gas at you or something. And I was like trying to keep back and take them out, and then I try to go up and more would just appear around the corner, because they'll get stuck on the walls as well, or like behind corners. So when you go around, they'll kind of sneak attack you, not necessarily I think trying to, they just kind of got stuck. But yeah, the game just it's full of charm, though it is annoying when you get to that second area and you're constantly hearing tread carefully now. Like you're constantly hearing that. I feel like that's the statues talking to you, because like statues, they open their mouth if you look at them long enough.
One of my the background like atmosphere, because there isn't really music per se. It's mostly
there's some music.
It's a little bit, but it's very subtle. It's mostly like atmosphere and like background noise. Like when you start the second level, if you listen carefully, you just hear like a woman screaming in the background.
Oh yeah.
Like, what
all like that stock Halloween stuff, the all that stuff.
Like the best way to describe this game nowadays is it's very cute. Like
it was even cute back then.
Oh yeah,
and on top of all the charm, as we said, it's also a really good game. Like it controls surprisingly well. The gameplay is very simple and straightforward, but not too repetitive. It has a pretty decent map system. In fact, if you push C, you see everything. Like you see your health, your ammo, how much lives you have, all your keys, that kind of stuff. And then the maps do a good job of painting everything for you, so you know like where you've been and where you haven't, so you can always look at the map if you need to. And yeah, there's not like too many secrets, or like there's no crazy difficulty spikes. I mean, some enemies can be harder than others, especially the spiders. I don't know if you ever got to the spiders.
Yeah,
I did. They tend to like because you can't hit them when they're on the ground. You have to wait for them to jump. So trying to time your shot to when their jump can be a pain in the ass. But and then certain levels, they'll end with like a character that's like a palette swap version of another character, and he's like super hard. So you just essentially wail all your ammo on him till he dies, and usually it takes a good chunk of your ammo to take him out. But it's super simple and it's super enjoyable. And yeah, like its difficulty I think is just right, and
very forgiving save system too. Like it lets you save after each level, so just save and you'll be fine. And
the levels aren't crazy long either.
No, they're not. And there's only like 10 of them, I think.
I think it's 12.
12. It's not for 90s FPS. It's very forgiving.
Yeah, I made it to the 4th level, so I made it a good way.
I got like level 5, I want to say. I got around there, and I was like, this is a game I'd like to play more of. I just don't have time. Right now.
Yeah, I don't have time to beat the whole thing. I probably will. Because with that generous save system, I could say pop it back in, play a level or two, and because its learning curve is practically nothing.
No, it's very pick up and play, which is great for an FPS, because some of these FPSs try way too hard to be like unique. And
I mean, this one is unique, but it's unique in a very simple way.
It's unique in the sense that like the concept is like is really fun. But like the actual gameplay itself is like about as simple as you can get, which I think is actually to its like to the positive on it rather than a detriment.
Yeah, exactly. It knows exactly what it's trying to be, and it just kind of succeeds at being that. It doesn't go too far. It doesn't go too little either. You know what I mean? Like there's no, though if this had some like silly FMV sequences, I think that would kind of be the icing on the cake.
Yeah, because
I feel like could you imagine like in between the levels, you have like little FMV sequences of like, say like the villain, like waiting for you or something, and all that, like that cheesy stuff. That would have been perfect. I can't believe I'm recommending FMV for a game, but I think it would have given it that little extra like zest to it.
Because for the most part, all you really get is there's like a cutscene at the start when you first boot the game up that has like this really hilarious CGI like mansion that's like right up there with the Castlevania from Symphony of the Night.
Yeah,
where it just doesn't look good, but it's charming at the same time.
Yeah.
Other than that, the one thing I found that I think is like the best way to describe this game is it is a perfect example of they understood the limits of the 3DO and they didn't go above them.
They knew the assignment.
Yeah. Like it is, I think like the best way to describe it is they knew their limits and they made a great game because of that, which is hilarious because they didn't follow this later on with their other big FPS for the system, which I have very split opinions on, which we'll be getting, especially after playing this game. And I've realized, holy fuck, this is actually good. We'll get to it with Killing Time later, but Killing Time is a very divisive game, I'd say, for the system.
Killing Time is a different beast entirely.
Yeah.
So I think when that remaster comes out, that's probably when I'll play it.
Yeah, and for that one, we're definitely gonna have Casey on because Casey's a big fan of that game. So I want to get his full opinion as well.
For sure. But this one, I mean, I knew I liked this one because when I got it, I think I got it before you and messed around with it. And I was like genuinely surprised at how like simple it was. And that's kind of what like the best 3DO games tend to be, games that are simple and unique. That seems to be the running theme. Like if you say like Incredible Machine, Icebreaker, say even like a Return Fire or a Gex, something it's simple, you kind of know what it is going into it, and it's unique. And because those two blend together, you're sort of able to go in and kind of figure it out, Like this, it takes like a very simple kind of Doom clone formula that was very popular at the time and just gives it a little bit of a spin. It doesn't overdo it because we're not in like that weird like Doom 2 Quake era where FPSs were really trying to branch out and do a lot of different stuff, and some worked better than others, like we're still very deep in the 2D era. And as you said, this one knew exactly what it was trying to do and it pulled it off. It's not PO'd, where I think PO'd is just a little too much. So much so that the system it was on couldn't really handle it. And my guess is when we play the remaster of it, we'll probably be like, oh, this is much better on here. But, that doesn't really benefit the 3DO version.
PO'd was also trying to be just weird, like for the sake of being weird at times.
It was overdoing it. Whereas Monster Manor, I wouldn't even say it's weird. It's just like, they're just like, oh, we like this sort of, like when you go into a Halloween store and you see this kind of stuff around, and you get a kick out of it, you're like, oh, it's cool. I like that. This is kind of what this is, this game is sort of the spirit of Halloween, that it's not really a scary holiday, dare I say it's not scary, but it's fun. We like to indulge in like that kind of stuff. There's something fun about it. Some people get really into it, arguably a little bit too much into it, but it's still fun, like around that time, like going into, say, like the costume shops or the Spirit Halloweens when they pop up, like wasp nests or whatever. Yeah. And then you go in and you kind of look around and you kind of get into the spirit. You know what I mean? And this game is the Spirit Halloween of video games. All right. Like it's sort of that thing. Like it just pops up and then you kind of go in and you have a good time with it. And then that's it.
It doesn't take itself too serious. And I think that is the best part about it.
That's the best Halloween stuff. It doesn't take itself that seriously. Like the stuff that I think is genuinely scary isn't scary for the sake of being it, or say for like a Halloween sense, you know? Like there's a reason for it, you know? Like this isn't trying to be that, you know?
Like Alone in the Dark was trying to be legitimately scary, and I think it's aged poorly because of that.
Yes.
This game is just trying to be funny, and well, it's trying to be fun.
Yeah,
like the fun scary, and I think because of that, it's aged incredibly well.
exactly. It's cheesy horror.
I also love the fact that this game in Japan is known as virtual horror. Norawata Yakata, I probably butchered that. I apologize, but
I'm sure there's somebody out there who may actually find this game legitimately scary.
possibly.
Yeah, I feel bad for them. But
I mean,
you know.
my response when I first saw the Scythe guy was literally I opened the door and went, "Oh, hey, buddy, want to hang out?"
There was one time something got me. I forget what it was, but it was like a jump scare because it was like an enemy was just like I turned around, he was right fucking there.
Ironically, the hanging guy probably gave me a spook just because I opened the door and I was like, "Whoa!" And I'm like, "Oh, he's dead."
Well, the first time I saw him too, and occasionally the goat. Oh, there was one time it was in like the first or second level. I was walking, and a ghost appeared like right here, and that freaked me the fuck out. I was like, Jesus Christ, you know.
They piss me off because they just troll you. They don't even do anything.
Oh yeah, they're just dicks. Yeah,
they're just there to fuck with you, and you're like, great.
Which is, if I became a ghost, that's what I would do. I'd just fuck with people.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't.
It sounds like it'd be a blast.
I wouldn't be a dick. I'd just be that. Well, I'd be a dick, but I wouldn't be like an asshole.
Yeah,
just
because if ghosts are real and they're just like fucking with people, like all these people who believe, they're probably just having a great time.
Yeah,
they're like, all these people lose their shit. Let's just keep going. Which is, to be fair, I'd do the same thing.
Yeah. So going into a reception, this game was weirdly kind of all over the place. It's an early game too, so it got a lot of reviews, but All Game only gave it 2.5 stars. Dragon gave it 2 stars.
Fuck Dragon.
Edge gave it a 5 out of 10. EGM a 6.7. It was very middling.
Apparently, this Dragon magazine is one of 2 official magazines for source material for the D&D role-playing game. So why the fuck were they reviewing 3DO games?
God, who knows?
Could you imagine a 90s D&D mag like reviewing this game? That's probably why they didn't like it. They were probably being pretentious little shits about it.
Even 3DO magazine only gave it a 3 out of 5 stars.
So somebody has scanned the copy of Dragon that has the review in it. They scanned it. So you keep talking, I'll find it.
So one of the reviews, the Edge review, kind of like they unfavorably compared the game to Doom, which I think is stupid because
it's not the same.
Doom was on a different level. Doom was like the next logical step after this style of FPS. Like this is much more comparable to Wolfenstein.
Yeah. Doom is a time-tested masterpiece, whereas Escape from Monster Manor is a hidden gem.
The nicest reviews came from like GamePro, who gave it a 18.5 out of 20. Game Fan gave it a 343 out of 400.
God, cool. I hate all these shit ass rating systems.
I know. They're so stupid. Joystick gave it a 73. Maniac gave it a 73. Video Games with a Space gave it 67, and then Video Games Without a Space gave it 8 out of 10. Some of these magazines are funny. I think the only ones here that actually still exist are like EGM, Game Pro, and Famitsu. And I'm not even quite 100% sure on those.
I'm pretty sure they're all still around.
Is All Game still around?
What the hell even is All Game? Is it like All Music?
Yeah.
It's like that. It's the branch of All Music that's for video gaming.
Oh, no, they've been gone since 2014.
Oh, man. I wonder what Glitchwave gave this game.
Oh, Edge is still around, I think.
Yeah, Edge is.
Yeah, Edge
in fact, you know what? Let me check. Let me check Glitchwave real quick. Like, do you know what Rate Your Music is?
Oh, yeah.
They have a video game version called Glitchwave.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. There's only 6 ratings for the game, and it averages at a 2.61. These people are fucking dumb. But to be fair, I think the highest rated game on here is Disco Elysium of all time. So yeah. Here, the top 5. It's Disco Elysium, Bloodborne, Silent Hill 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, and Mother 3.
I mean,
I think that describes their taste.
yeah.
All great games, but you know.
They are. It's a very interesting selection there, though. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, very interesting selection. But you know, what do you expect from these weirdos? You know, they're all like Radiohead people.
Yeah. That being said, though, going into must play, stay away.
Oh, must play.
Must play.
Are you fucking kidding me?
This might be like one of the best games we played for the system.
I think this game, when we do this tier list again, I think we're both gonna throw this fucker in the S tier. Like this was a great game.
Oh yeah, like I mean, we've started off the second half of our rundown pretty badly. Like we've had 3 flops, and then it's like we immediately go into like arguably one of the best games we've played. Like this is up there with like,
and
Need
this
for
game,
Speed, Icebreaker, John Madden.
and you know it's and you know the thing is, this game is a 3DO exclusive. It has never been ported. Doesn't even have a PC port,
which is crazy.
Wild. Yeah, because so many 3DO games at the very least got ported to PC. And this is nope.
This is up there with like Icebreaker as like one of those reasons to buy a 3DO.
Genuinely, like like listeners, if you end up getting a 3DO or want to play 3DO games, like this is on this. Put this on your short list. Absolutely. And I think, do you remember what you paid for this guy? The physical of it?
The complete boxed version. I think I paid like $30.
Let me find. I'm pretty sure I bought this one off eBay. I gotta scroll through. I buy too much shit on eBay. I gotta keep going. You talk. I'll keep going.
Yeah, I think if you're going for either the loose disc, it's probably cheaper. The long box, which is what most people would want, I paid around like the 30 to 35-ish range.
Yeah, I mean, for these guys, I think we'd recommend the long boxes because these guys have aged fairly well, and they're really unique designs that surprisingly have withstood the test of time.
Also, with one of these, like the clamshell boxes, unfortunately, just by how they were made, they don't have jewel cases. So if you don't get the box, you're just going to get a loose disc, which kind of sucks.
Yeah. I cannot find this in my eBay. Maybe I didn't buy it on eBay. Maybe I bought it in person somewhere. But yeah, I can't remember what I paid for it. I don't think it was that bad.
It's not one of the worst, but it's also not super cheap for 3DO standards.
Most 3DO games aren't super cheap.
Let me check Game Eye to see what it's going for right now.
All right, for price charting, loose it's at $28.18. Complete is $61.59.
Yeah, so that's a little pricey, but that's not the worst.
Yeah, it could be worse. In fact, if I check the eBay listings at this current time, let's see what it's going for from what I see. I'm seeing it in like mid 60s to like mid 70s is what I'm seeing it for now. There are some jewel case versions that are a little bit cheaper, but yeah, this one is starting to climb. Like I'm seeing it go for like 100 now.
Yeah, it's
so this one might be like, if you can get this for a good price, go for it. Otherwise, I would stick to emulation just because of how expensive it is. But regardless, you will have a very good time with it. It is a super fun game.
Now, the question really is, what do we play next?
I mean, I know what I want to play next, but
what were you thinking?
I want to do Demolition Man.
All right.
But I don't think you don't have Demolition Man, do you?
I don't own it. I might be. Well, let me do an eBay check right now.
That one's, I think, getting pricey too.
Demolition Man 3DO.
Yeah, I'm seeing it for. I mean, you can get a jewel case version of it for like $40.
Yeah.
But the long box is like probably twice that.
So there's one with no manual for $40. That's actually not terrible.
Yeah. Though there's a great typo in the manual.
Is there?
Well, if you don't get the manual, I'll show it to you.
So how about I'll try to get Demolition Man. How about we settle on that be the next game, but maybe next week we'll do another developer showcase.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. We'll leave it ambiguous for now because we probably got to think about it. But
yeah, next week we'll be talking about Echo the Dolphin for the Dreamcast. We'll be playing Test Drive Le Mans.
Le Mans,
whatever whatever.
Le Mans.
I'm not European, all right? I went to the bathroom earlier.
Yes. But on that note, once again, guys, thank you for joining us on the 3DO Experience. The 3DO Experience can be found on all the major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And be sure to check us out over on the Superpod Network, superpodnetwork.com. You can find a bunch of podcasts, blogs, videos. Who knows what the website will look like? Aaron likes to change it every day. I've noticed lately.
There will always be content.
Yes, there will. But you can also find a ton of great shows like Superpod Saga, Super Ghost Radio, Retro Rehab, A Novel Console, Bar Silence, Remember 64, Gaming Together, Tommy's Video Game Ride Along, Friday Night Gamecast, The Elder Trolls, Fine Time, GNC shows. I think that's everybody.
I'm just going to assume yes.
Okay. If I forgot you, I'm sorry.
Send your hate mail.
But with that, everybody, we will see you all later.
Well, don't forget, I am streaming.
Oh, that is true. The streams are back.
Yeah, the streams are back. We did it last week. I'm a little rusty, but I'll get back into it. I won't be doing it this Thursday because I'm recording a guest spot on a podcast this Thursday. So stay tuned for that. So I will be streaming this weekend, probably like a Sunday afternoon type deal is what I'm thinking. So yeah, I'll be playing some Genesis games. I still haven't picked the ones I'm going to play. I think I had one that somebody asked me to do, but I have a list, so I'll just go through the list.
Nice. And the link for that is down in the description of the podcast, and you can find it in the video version down there.
Yes, and I'm also uploading the VODs to YouTube, slightly edited. So go there, subscribe to the YouTube, follow the Twitch. I need, I think, 50 followers to be an affiliate, and I'm at like 31.
Nice.
So just do that, and then, maybe I can get like $1 from the streams. Jay, I'll take it.
Nice. And with that, everybody, we will see you all later.
Bye-bye.
If you're not playing on a 3DO system, what are you playing with?